Okay, so welcome. Thank you for joining. This is our next webinar, How to Handle Marketing During the Crisis. My name's Lucy. I'm the Operations Manager at Fine Company. I'll be moderating today, so if you have any questions at all, just submit them to the chat box and I will pass them on to Jonathan and Luke, and we'll answer as many as we can at the end of the webinar. If there's any problems throughout, just send me a message and I can help you if there's any problems with audio, and we'll get started. So I'd like to hand over to Jonathan Fine and Luke Wade.
Hi there, good afternoon everybody. My name is Jonathan Fine. I work for Fine Company. I'm a management consultant, and Luke is with me today. Luke runs our marketing business, Hive Marketing. And together we put together this presentation to help you get back to work with a bit of a start. Make sure you've got everything in order. So in order to sort of kick this off, I think it'd be quite useful for me to give you some kind of context. So I'm going to run through a couple of slides, which I hopefully you'll find interesting before we actually talk about the marketing. So Luke, if you could pop up those slides for me, that'd be great. Thanks. Right, off we go. Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Luke. Marketing really starts with understanding your context. If you don't understand your context, you're going to have some difficulties. And context starts with your geography, where you happen to be. So there's a big difference between being in Bridlington, where Greg is, and being in Clapham, where another practice might be, or in Limerick in Ireland. Local conditions are really quite important. So what might appear to be a major issue in Bridlington might not be an issue at all in Limerick. So you need to understand your catchment. And in marketing, we always start by understanding context. Now our context today is significant. It's very, very different situation. It's nothing like we've ever had before. And I know you know that, but I think to some extent we've all been preoccupied quite rightly about our health and our family's health. And we've sort of been helped by the government enormously with funding or part funding. And to some extent we've been inebriated from what is likely to be happening when we actually go back to work. We're going back to work to a massively changed economy. And people talk about the recession of 2008 as being a terrible time. That's going to look like a tea party. In my younger days, I set up an advertising agency in Yorkshire, right in the middle of the miners' strike. And that was pretty horrific if you happen to be in business at that time. But I suspect we're going back to a very, very different, even a more challenging situation than even that, even though that was absolutely enormously destructive. I feel as though what we're going back to is something that's going to be worse than that. We need to understand that. It is being talked about possibly as the worst recession for 300 years. So there's lots of doom and gloom stories about. They're all true. I think it is going to be pretty bad. So we need to get serious about running a business in order to survive. The next bit I think we need to understand is social structures will change. We're all working from home. I'm talking to you on Zoom today, and my business life is taking a totally different shape because of this situation. Well, our social lives will change as well, and what we're prepared to do and what we're prepared to accept will also change. And I don't think we can legislate for that. I don't think we can say exactly what's going to happen, but we do know it is going to be different, and people's expectation of going into a surgery will be different. They'll be much more aware of things like cross-contamination. They'll be much more concerned about perhaps their health than they would have been only 6 weeks ago. There will undoubtedly be less dental practices. I think most of you will have seen the article in the Sunday Times, which talked about up to a third of practices just disappearing. Maybe that's a bit overstated. I think there was another article in the Irish News that declared that 70% of practices in Northern Ireland would disappear. I think all that's overstated, but I think we are going to see a contraction in the market because I think for a lot of people, for a lot of practice owners, it's going to be almost impossible to reopen because things are going to be so entrenched, and it will be easier and more attractive for them to go and get a job as an associate in somebody else's practice. Despite what you might have heard about the value of dental practices, and I've sort of seen some really silly bits of press releases and webinars suggesting that the value of practices won't be impacted by this crisis. I mean, I can also tell you that is absolute total rubbish. Why would a practice be worth what it was worth in February today? It just can't be. So it's silly to think about that. So a really good practice that might have been worth £1 million in February is now worth £500,000. And the reason why that's important is because most financial gearing on expansion is predicated on the value of the practice. And that will cause some structural issues in the market. The next point, which is an unknown, but it's a very serious one, is the expectation that we will have some guidance or legislation or directives that says that we have to look after our patients in a very different way, and we have to prepare enormously for cross-contamination. And so there will be, PPE, and there will be, decontamination of surgeries. There will be probably pre-testing, and all of that has a cost. And the conservative cost for a full pack is probably £20 per individual, per patient. So you can imagine that that's going to have enormous impact on the cost of delivery of your service. Associates will be in great supply because there'll be less practices, and the demand curves will be different for a while at least anyway. So if you want to recruit an implant or an ortho or a very good GDP associate, I'm not expecting you to have too much difficulty in doing that. You may have to review how much you pay them, and in an earlier webinar I talked about what is going to happen to associates' pay plans. Instead of getting paid 40 something, they're going to have to get paid 30 something because your cost base is going to change so much. There will, of course, be enormous pent-up demand. The last time people could go to a dentist was maybe the first or the second week of March. Well, you can imagine there's an awful lot of people out there that desperately need to see a dentist. And although the government's best plans and best intentions have been to facilitate emergency treatment, it's not really very effective. So there'll be a lot of people, as soon as you open, will want to come into your practice. The problem will be is that you'll be getting very full diaries probably, but not a lot of high value treatments as a result of those diaries. I think it's almost inevitable there will be a downward pressure on prices. So if an implant in your area is £2,200 at the moment, expect it to drop below that because there will be some price disruption in the market. So there will be some desperate dentists that will drop their prices, and they'll be very visible and very noisy about that. And that will obviously have an impact on the market. So if we look at the opportunities, so that's the context. If we look at the opportunities, and this is just a short note for the opportunities, I'm sure there's lots more. Clearly there's pent-up demand in the market, and there is less clinical space. So in a sense, if the market a number of dental practices shrunk by 20% in your area, then in theory at least anyway, there's 20% more work for you to win. And you've got that pent-up demand as well, which inevitably will lead to some higher value treatments to some extent. The next point is that your competitors are in shock when they go back to work. They've never ever experienced anything like this, and nobody has. And some of them will be lacking in confidence, and they will be reluctant to actually invest in anything, let alone marketing. So there'll be they'll kind of move into the fetal position, and they'll not want to do anything other than look after a small cohort of patients that have come in through pent-up demand, and they're not going to be very aggressive in their marketing or in any kind of building any kind of presence or trying to pitch for high value treatments. And that of course is a major opportunity for you. we are, with all of our clients, doing an awful lot of work on pre-selling high-value treatments, and we're doing that through online consultations. So Luke will expand on this point, but online consultations in the period before we go back to work. So we're going to go back to work on, say, July the 1st. On June the 1st, we would recommend that you launch a fairly noisy campaign on social media and pay-per-click, PPC, in order to win high-value treatment consultations. You've got your clinical team standing by, you've got your ortho guy standing by, your implant lady standing by, you're all there ready to do these online consultations, and you book the patient in, and you actually start to fill the diaries in advance with high-value treatments rather than just opening up and taking all that pent-up demand, which will be largely low-value treatments. The next thing I would suggest you do, because you probably haven't had enough time to do it because you've all been busy making money and being busy with full diaries and everything's been great. And so you haven't had that opportunity to stand back perhaps and look at your business. And I think this is a good time for you to review your proposition. Anybody who knows me will know that I've been banging on about the retailization of dentistry. That's moving dentistry from the traditional semi-detached location into a retail environment and opening 7 days a week and being a retail offer sitting beside Costa or Boots or whatever. I think this is your chance to do that. You don't have to move premises. You don't have to be particularly dramatic about it, but if you actually embrace the retail concept, you'll find that you will win a lot more business a lot quicker, and you will win a lot more high value business, which is essentially what this is all about. And if anybody wants to talk about that separately, happy to. It's one of my favorite subjects, talk about it all day. And the last bit, which is what we're going to talk about now, is creating an efficient marketing system. So if you haven't got, I know you will have a marketing process in place. You'll have a website. You're probably spending a little bit of money on SEO and PPC, but we want to try and get you to systemize that and to build it around a sales process, because the way we see practices, they're split in two. We see production as one side and sales on the other. And this is all about creating the sales. This is all about winning those new high value customers. So I'm going to hand over now to Luke, who's going to talk in some detail about the mechanics behind this, and I'll come back in towards the end of this webinar. Thank you.
Thanks, Johnny. Right, I think what I wanted to look at is give you kind of a practical guide of how you should be using this time to prepare your marketing systems, look at your collateral, your digital visibility, and really be prepared. To be prepared, you need to think long term. The current situation really does provide a fertile ground to gain competitive advantage, given, as Johnny says, that lots of your competitors are nervous about marketing, they're cutting their costs, they're really, with a lot of knee-jerk reactions just to cut costs immediately without really thinking of the impact on their business in the longer term. I think there is, with businesses cutting back, there's less noise, there's more room for you to improve your advertising effectiveness and really cut through and gain some advantage there. Now, I appreciate that you're having to cut costs, so depending on your situation, you may have to plan your kind of rebirth and reopening on a shoestring budget initially. So any improvements you can make to your marketing effectiveness here will really help you in the long run. So how we've got a forced lockdown, so I would recommend that you use your time as well as looking at your operational issues and how you're managing your staff, but really dedicate some time to planning the future marketing that you're going to do for the business. Start with looking at the effectiveness, think about the quality of your website, review your search marketing strategies, review your marketing plan, and really look at critically assess your branded collateral for starters. So that that's looking at your video content, the content you're publishing, your signage, the curb appeal of your practice. So first thing is website performance. Now, you probably haven't done this. You may have done this before when you're looking at a new website, or you may do it every now and then, but now is the time to really audit your website. So, when you're auditing your website, evaluate your content, but look at its technical performance as well. So the kind of things that we're recommending to our clients and doing for our clients is really looking at how the site is optimized for usability. Now, usability, I mean about how do people use your site, how do they find the content from your homepage, when they from a search engine, then they go straight to a landing page, how do they then maneuver themselves around the site? So really focus on that, and from your homepage, look at the treatment landing pages, look at the kind of content and blog or news articles that you're posting, and any related content that sits in between to reinforce your message and build trust with your audience. So consider, is your website simple and straightforward to navigate? Is it got an intuitive design that aids that? So from your navigation perspective, does it have sub-menus? Are those sub-menus visible on some treatment pages? Have you broken down particular treatment types into different systems? So if we're looking at implants, is it broken down into single implants, multiple, then stabilization, all on four, etc.? And do you have are all the value propositions for your business easily accessible? Is it really clear about why you're different or how you stand out? What type of service are you offering? When are you open? Are there any particular offers? What's the finance like? Fee guides, patient testimonials, for example. And is it really easy? What's really important, is it very easy for anyone visitor to establish contact with you? How accessible are the forms? How visible are they? Is the telephone number very visible on the site? All of those things really help. Your opening hours, for example, and really how you can support people. That's the first stage of from a helicopter view of your website. But then really from a technical point of view, how does it perform from a speed perspective? So speed is very important from a Google ranking perspective, for example, and Google can penalize sites and not rank them so highly if they're slow. So it's hard to give you kind of an exact guide on how fast your site should be, because it really depends on how much information is on there, how many videos, how much kind of visual files. So I would say that it should be as fast as you can make it without compromising the overall customer experience, because you want to communicate those key propositions to them. The factors to your success really depend on the browser, type of device people are using. More and more people are on mobiles now. It's up to 70% for some areas that we work with. Web hosting is a really important area as well, and how your site may be throttled if it's on a server that is hosting many sites, and traffic traffic can vary throughout the day depending on demand for their servers. And the content, how easy is the content to load? So it can really impact the performance of the site, and particularly the bounce rate. So the bounce rate is the people that land on your site and then leave. And it might be that they leave because the site is not loading correctly, or the information that you have on your site is not relevant to their search. So I would look at a test of your site. There are many platforms. If you Google speed test on the website, you'll find lots of resources for that. And I would say, as a guide, we want your site to load in less than 5 seconds. That would probably put it faster than approximately 25% of the web. If you're under 3 seconds, that would be great, and then you're faster than 50% of competitors. We see a lot of dental sites that are fairly slow, so there's some good gains to be had there, and you're improving the user experience if they're able to get that content and see it immediately. I mentioned bounce rate there. I think with websites, we see that a bounce rate is probably, the average is around 50%. You can use Google Analytics to work out what your bounce rate is. If you can get below 50%, that means more people are sticking. And every kind of gain that you make there, that increases the audience that is staying and viewing content on your site. So just small tweaks can really make your marketing spend digitally more effective. The next thing is really important is the content on your site high quality? and really look at it critically and think about it from your audience perspective, not from a clinical point of view. So, you know, ask yourselves these questions when you're looking at content. Would the information leave your customers satisfied? Does it really answer all of their questions? And you've probably got some good insight into the questions they have from your team, from your TCOs, from your clinical assessments with your patients. And are you answering those most common questions? Because it's really helpful to have those on your site, because it builds rapport, builds trust, and encourages the individuals to make contact. And also from your site, is it clear on what they should do next? So how easy is it to make an inquiry? Are there any barriers to making an inquiry? Are you offering free consultations or TCO consultations? Is there, make that really clear, because that will encourage someone to make contact with you. The next thing I would look at is really use Google Analytics, and just when you're looking at the site, you've performed some of those things, is see which pages are popular, and how can you make them help people navigate to other sections of your site. So we see team pages are really important. We see fee guides are, but actually, is it easy for them to then transition to another page on your site? Do you have contact forms on your team page, for example, and some of your offers or finance options that you can link to? And then look at the keywords. So what keywords are driving a lot of traffic, and if they're valuable to your practice, if they're high value treatments, then look about how you can create more content for those areas. And then what we call CTAs, which is calls to action. So throughout your site, have you got the appropriate calls to action for make an inquiry, contact us now, telephone numbers, but your marketing offers as well. And are they highly visible on your site, from not just from a desktop perspective, but from a mobile, making sure that they are ideally above the fold, or you don't have to scroll very far down the page to actually encourage someone to make contact, rather than just being right at the bottom of the page. All of these things would enable you to improve the conversion potential of your site. And if we can get some good conversion, then again, that makes your marketing pound more effective in what you're doing. So always be looking at it from those points of views. The next thing is really search engine optimization, and that is the slide here is talking about the battleground of search. And search has changed over the years from being, rather than just being a directory of links or answers to any questions, Google is really trying to answer questions and deliver really great content that serves the purposes of the user. They're making lots of changes, and this is how a page is typically laid out. This was a search for periodontist in London that I performed this morning. And you can see that the top of the page, Google is, after all, a commercial entity. It wants to be monetizing its inventory. Paid search is great from your perspective, because it really helps you get visibility at the top of the page. It also helps you fill any gaps that you may have in your organic search strategy. The other side is the local listings and maps, which are sometimes overlooked. They're really important to make sure that your Google Business Manager is up to date, or Big Business page is up to date with your hours of opening. You've got your building your reviews, and you're listed, because there are only 3 listings there. So you really want to make sure you're well optimized and got the most information there, so you can be really visible for anyone searching. And then your location is accurate on a map. And the reason I think that's really important is when, say, someone's searching for best orthodontist in my area, Google will look at reviews of 4 stars and above to class someone as the best in their field, and then they bring in the other factors about location and some of the way that you're optimized. So it really is important to make sure that you're looking at the localized SEO as well. And then organic search really is a very good driver of traffic to your site. people here have the most intent to purchase. So you want to make sure that you are listed, ranked highly on your site. And that is because we often see that when you land on the site, you'll see a conversion of up to 10% of people that will then convert into an inquiry. And that really is a good metric. They are highly motivated. When someone is searching, they're really looking for that information. They're looking for the provider that they want, or even they're already a patient and they're trying to find you. They may have passed your sign or your premises. They may have seen you in a newspaper or heard you on the radio. And your visibility in a search engine will really support all of the marketing activity that you undertake during your kind of marketing delivery of your marketing plan. So it's very important that you get that. So I would recommend, as part of your site audit, that you perform a technical audit to look at how your site is structured for search. And you can ask your current developer for a technical evaluation, or you could ask an outside agency for an independent assessment. We're happy to do that for you if you wish. When you get a report back from someone, you should, for your technical assessment, really look at how your site is mobile friendly. Does your website have any broken links? And historically, sites do, because pages change or links that you're linking to no longer exist. So there are often broken links and error messages. Look at the site structure, and is the SEO, are the URLs SEO friendly? Do they do they describe what the treatment is on that page? Typically, you want to have something that says, dentalpractice.com/treatment/dental implants or Invisalign. So the search engine really does understand what's on that page with some of the other kind of context that's on that page. And really, is there anything else preventing your pages from being indexed? The technical report should bring that through, as well as any backlinks that link to your site, any that may be toxic or not valuable as part of your SEO efforts. All of those can be then reviewed, and then a plan can be put in place to be fixed. And now is the time to be looking at that. If we look at what I'm finding is, during this time, that a lot of people have really cut back on their digital advertising. And I really would recommend that you consider preserving your SEO during this time. The long-term benefits far outweigh the short-term gains on the funds available. As you kind of react and adapt to this new reality, it's typical. I do appreciate that sometimes you're forced to make cuts to survive, but there are some reasons why I believe you should continue an SEO program. SEO has high return on investment. There really are few marketing channels that generate revenue like SEO. It supports, the main reason is that SEO and paid search ads put your website in front of someone at the moment when they are in need and when they are the most highly motivated to act, as I referenced earlier. And also, to repeat my earlier point as well, they are effective in supporting the non-digital brand awareness activity that you're doing, the word of mouth and recommendations that they get. If you're visible, people find you. They become more familiar with you as well. Because you're highly visible and permanently there. The longer term benefit really does work there. The other important thing is that search SEO is tangible and trackable. So that's the really key thing about digital marketing, and with regards to driving and helping you manage your investment there. It's straightforward to track and evaluate. At Hive, we track position movements, we look at website traffic, conversions by both web form submissions and actual telephone inquiries can be uniquely tracked to the individual number that comes in. And we break that down into how that traffic is derived by search engine optimization, from people visiting the site directly, paid search, social ads. They're all enable you to manage your marketing effectiveness. And I do think that there's few budgets that will work harder for your business than search marketing. It should be the kind of foundation of your digital marketing, or your overall your marketing plan to be, because it supports so much of what you'll be doing. It's one of the most consistent and cost-effective methods for bringing in new inquiries. Also, the other reason is, at the moment, your prospects are at home. They may be furloughed, they may be working from home, they've got more time on their hands. They are streaming, they're watching lots of Netflix, they're doing lots of social media, but they're also researching a lot of the decisions that they've been putting off for some time and trying to get as much content available as possible for when you reopen. So it's continuing your SEO strategy, and means that you remain top of search, ideally, if you're well placed and you're getting that traffic. So if you're a savvy principal, I would position your dental business in a way that's relevant to the current situation as well. So it may not seem obvious, but you can talk about, but just by talking about COVID, and within your blogs, there's a lot of traffic there, you can get visibility there, but also offering people downloads on particular treatments, Invisalign implants kind of spring to mind, that will really help you engage and get a connection with that user. It really does help, and then you can follow up those inquiries, book video consultations, and also schedule appointments for when you reopen. So you're filling your diary in advance with some good new inquiries. The other thing is your competition is backing off at this time. So it really is a great time to continue your investment. And actually what we're seeing is that the gains that you can take now as your competitors fall down the rankings means that you can gain rank quite quickly, but also you can maintain, once you've got that, you can maintain that for longer. And your competition has to kind of reinvest what they've spent already, or find new budget when they reopen to cover that ground. And it can take some time to regain where they were. They may not even get there because you've now moved up the rankings. So I think that's really important to look at the search marketing strategy, because it is a pillar of all marketing from my point of view. So what would happen if you were to stop your SEO? I think there isn't an immediate decline or fall overnight, but it is, you will find a decline in time. They will take a downturn eventually. And I think if you just look at this graph, represents the click-through rate from a search engine result page, on the first page. If you're ranking high for very competitive phrases in your area, if you drop from position 1 down to a couple of positions, even to position 6, you can see the actual decline in the click rate. You've got almost a fifth of everyone searching will be clicking on you if you're position 1, down to 2%, or to under 3% for position 6. There's a real decline in traffic, and at the time when your marketing budget, you're trying to make your budget effective, the higher that you rank will really benefit the amount of traffic you get to your site. And if you've looked at your site and improved the content and the CTAs and the contact methods, then you're really going to benefit if you look at that. Just move on to the next page. So this is really about driving intent to search. So a lot of what I've said about so far is really about search engine optimization. There's many other channels that we look at digitally. So if we look at this graph, this kind of represents someone's intent to buy and all the different platforms and mediums they may be considering. So you've got your branded website and your treatment landing pages that are well optimized. That actually is great when you get the traffic there. But people are also looking for FAQs, and their search is not just about dentist near me or dentist in Clapham. It might be that they're looking about where is the best where is the best place to get dental implants from? So they're much longer term phrases. And if you can build out your content and have content available on various platforms across social media, on other directories that are part of your backlink strategy for SEO, and it really reinforces and supports those longer term phrases. And if you're driving that information, you're driving traffic to your site. People are looking at so many more things in messaging. They're talking to people, but also with the virtual assistants like the Amazon Echo and the Google. I forget the name of it, but it's, and Siri. People are looking at putting verbal requests into these engines, and Google interpreting them and delivering those results as well. So that's the more content and clear content that you have on your sites, and as part of your digital strategy across many platforms, the more Google is able to assimilate that information and deliver the effective results for the audience, which is really all it ever wants to do, is give the best result. And if you can be deemed as being the authority in your area, that really will serve you well. So as well as SEO, you should continue you should be writing blogs and publishing to keep your site fresh and active, and really communicating the benefits of a particular treatment or how you can help people during this time. It might be advice about how to look after your aligners during this time when they can't visit the practice. It might be about your, if they've got gum disease, how they can really keep an eye on and maintain their treatment during this time, or how they can contact you as well by offering videos and fresh content. That will really help. They will take notice. We know that users take notice of useful, engaging content, but also subconsciously it reminds them that they're recognizing your brand as being an authority. And that really helps on the long-term perspective. When they're looking for something and they find you, they are already familiar with you, they trust you, you've built rapport with them, they're more likely to select you over another practice that they're unfamiliar with. So create new content, keep your website and social accounts fresh. Look at it for high value treatments in particular, because that's what we really want to fill the diary with when you reopen, but also some topical phrases as well that will help you gain rank there. Anything you do now really will have a long-term benefit to what you're doing. So it's not just short-term tactical things that you're doing. They will all have a long-term benefit on your marketing performance. And really, because people will engage to see your brand, excuse me, in a positive light. More pages, but importantly, if you're posting more content to your site, more of your pages will be indexed by Google. So it really does support your SEO efforts. If you're writing really in-depth articles about particular treatments, you're really informing your audience and providing some sound advice, which will be really, really helpful and position you as the expert in your area. The compound effect of this means that the kind of organic search and volume to your site will increase over time, which is really what our goal is. And the inquiry quality will increase as well. The other campaigns that we should be looking at, and these are campaigns that I find that have been paused and are being assessed and evaluated, but should be considered for 4 weeks before you launch, is really your pay-per-click campaigns. Your competitors are withdrawing. It's unlikely that many of them will start before they reopen, and because paid search is an auction really based on demand, the cost per click is lower than it has been, which can again lead to improved performance and lower cost per acquisition rates overall, so you can get more traffic for less spend currently. So I would look at how you consider increasing your budget for campaigns that have high value treatments leading up to opening, and capitalize on that stay at home research traffic. And if you support that with the ability to have online consultations, easily accessible with a treatment coordinator or with the clinician. That is really helpful and build rapport and trust, and you'll get a booking in, an appointment in for when you're open. And also, but keep some visibility for some of your general terms. Decrease the budget for general dentistry, but actually keep it kind of ticking over, because you're maintaining some visibility for your brand at the top of the search results for people looking for general treatment, and it will pay off in when you reopen. From a social ads perspective, we are recommending that people maintain social ads to a degree, so keep on publishing, but where the bigger opportunity is around the social advertising and broadening your reach and appealing to new prospects. It's a great medium for when you're planning to reopen, and if with your team at home, some of them may be furloughed, but the ones that are working, or you may have them on a roster during this time, the ability to engage fast with any comments and feedback will really reward you and help you grow that share of audience. So I think while you're before you are open, there's some opportunities for social ad campaigns, and they include making video consultations very accessible. They're very easy to set up. We're on Zoom now, so open a Zoom account and we can link it with a diary application that the audience can self-select a time that's convenient to them, and it coordinates with your online diary, and a confirmation is sent out as well as reminders. It's a very straightforward implementation that we're seeing lots of practices start to do, and starting to see some good feedback from new prospects inquiring about treatment. A lot of the practices that we are monitoring inquiries at are still getting a lot of, I say a lot, it's far less than what they were getting, but they're getting a regular feed of inquiries for high value treatments, implants in particular. People are looking around for looking at pricing. Invisalign, people are really trying to engage and finding out how they go about treatment once you reopen, so that we know there is opportunity out there right now. People are searching, so it's great to have that. The other option is really live streaming virtual events. So we know that open days work really well at practices for Invisalign and for implants. There's no reason why you can't create some virtual version of this. Online Q&A sessions with the clinician who's responsible for that treatment area are really helpful. People do have the time. They do want to gain knowledge for those high value treatments. People want answers before they really commit. If you're able to do that when no one else is, answer those questions, you've actually created a very good prospect for your practice. You can offer attendees exclusive discounts thereafter as well to incentivize them to book in. The other area for social side is anyone that's visiting your site, we can retarget. So we can retarget with bespoke and specific offers based on their demographics to get them engaged. We can also, if you have opted-in patient lists available, we can retarget active patients, lapsed patients, people that have been prospects but maybe didn't take up a treatment plan. We can remind them about particular treatment areas and promote offers to them, as well as the new prospects, and use that audience to look for similar lookalike audience as well and promote to them. It's a very effective medium and highly responsive, and actually the cost per acquisition rates can be lower than the other areas as well. But you have to the team have to be very responsive and work harder to get those people in. It's typically because, unlike search, they're slightly less motivated, the intent isn't there, but if you get the timing right, and you're able to fill a space when they are at home and looking for information, and offer them that direct engagement with an online consult, it will pay dividends in the long run. So I would use this time to design and build a series of campaigns that so you're prepared 4 weeks before you reopen to start building those campaigns up. Talked about cost per click. That's that slide there, just really about that flexible that deliver traffic, opportunities for social ads. Just gone through those. The final topic I just wanted to talk about was your curb appeal. So I think signage is often the most neglected area of dental marketing, yet arguably it's the most effective. It's a fixed cost. And it can be really powerful. It's great for visibility, the passing traffic, the traffic that adjacent businesses are getting are able to see. If you get it right, your choice of signage, whether backlit, or whether it's the whole building, or you've got vinyls and blinds on windows that are branded, anything that really makes your practice stand out from passers-by will play a major role in them determining whether they want to cross your threshold. It also has that impact of they will recognise your brand when they see it elsewhere on other mediums if it's highly effective. So concentrate on basic elements during this time, critically evaluate the signage. And also look at getting we're opening on the 1st of July, for instance. Get that banner out there when you're committed, and there's free consultations that are available and how they can contact you before then to get their appointment. So examine, when you're looking at signage, look at the scale of your building before determining the dimensions of the sign. Really go as big as you can, but without looking too ostentatious would be a rough guide there. Colour-wise, you can follow your brand style as well as the underlying architecture of the building before settling on the colour scheme. But you could actually go for a bolder colour that would help you stand out. It will help people remember your business. So take the time to review your signage. Take some photos and review those photos. Stand at the practice at 45 degrees from both ends of the street, see if it's visible from both sides. What treatments are the treatments available, really visible? And again, take another photo from across the street and just evaluate what you see. How can it be improved? What's the impact of the curb appeal of your practice? I think that kind of is a quick run through of some of the areas that I would focus on during this time. I'm going to hand back to Johnny.
Thanks, Luke. You kind of read my last slide, though, I have to say. I don't know what it does. It's okay. Okay, so I think the sort of concluding bit is that you need to plan. This isn't just going to happen. And you need to have a really robust plan in place 4 weeks before we go back to work. So if we're going to go back to work on July the 1st, which is what most people are sort of indicating at the minute, that's for both Ireland and the UK, then you need to have a turnkey plan in place that starts on the 1st of June. And it really starts with having a really efficient online consultation service. And in order to do that, you're going to have to make some tweaks to your website, and you're going to have to put some protocol in place, like GDPR. You're going to have to get permission to record the interview, etc. You're going to have to get the buy-in from your clinical team so that your ortho person is quite happy to do an orthodontic consultation, because that person is going to be much better at converting that particular free consultation to an actual consultation. So there's quite a lot of work to do to actually make that happen. And some of the, in fact, most of the management systems are quickly producing software to enable you to do that inside your practice management system. Luke talked extensively about your website, but really the best way to find out about your website is to get it objectively evaluated. And we are very happy at no cost to evaluate your current website. And I think it's only fair to say that even websites that we built 3 years ago are actually significantly out of date today. And they might be working okay. The conversion rate might be okay. It might be 7 or 8%, but there's no reason why we couldn't get up to 9 or 10% with some additional plugins, updates, or even changing how we do the formats of the landing pages. Because things have changed, believe it or not, in 2 or 3 years, massively. The shift from mobile, from fixed to mobile is I won't say it's absolute now, but it's running at between 70 and 80%. You do need to have a digital marketing plan in place. And that shouldn't be just well, we normally spend X amount of money on SEO and we normally spend 500 quid on PPC. Don't do it that way. Work to some kind of objective. Make it very, very clear what you're trying to do. What particular treatments are you trying to sell? And remember, different treatments respond differently on different channels. So it's not all, we spend it all on PPC or we spend it all on social media. It really depends what treatments you particularly want to sell. And you need to talk to somebody who knows about those channels to be able to advise you as to where your money is going to perform best. Luke's absolutely right about taking a photograph, standing across the road and taking a photograph of your practice from down the road, one direction, and down the road the other direction, and then square on. And when actually you look at the photograph, you'll be amazed at what you can see and what you can't see and what it tells you. And ask people you know what they think about what they see, because you're obviously a little bit biased. And the other thing I might say is that go around to your competitors, they're closed at the minute, take photographs of their practices and look at them and see what you might be able to steal from them. I think Johnny Cochrane's actually listening to this, and Johnny he's in a beautiful location in Ann Square in Bristol. He's got a beautiful practice, but the signage was pretty bland because the building was so nice and there's a lot of planning issues. And Johnny came up with the idea of putting a big flag outside it. And it looks amazing. And I bet you he gets more business out of that flag than he does from probably most of his other marketing investments, because there's a lot of traffic passing through the green there. You need to look at the numbers on your marketing, because one of the things we get carried away with marketing is that we spend money and then hopefully we get enough patients. Well, we need to be able to track what the conversion rate on the traffic is, and at each point. So when they actually make their contact, when they phone in or they fill in a form or they book an appointment, how many of them actually convert and show up at the appointment? And what is the conversion rate by the clinician or the treatment coordinator, whatever system you're using, and how good is it? Because you will find that it varies from channel to channel. It's not that straightforward. You've got loads of time now. There's loads of information. As Luke said many times, the great thing about the digital environment is that everything's traceable. You can find out absolutely everything. And you should be becoming mini experts of channel marketing at this time, because you've got all the information. It's already in your system. And the last thing I would say is that you've got a whole cohort of patients out there. And I know I was saying earlier that there's going to be pent-up demand. Well, of course there is, and they're going to have, lots and lots of urgent work that needs to happen. But there'll also be a big lump of people that don't need to go to the dentist just yet. My recommendation is that you make a very, very cheap video with somebody's phone. You get all your team together in their scrubs, and you actually send them the video, and it says, we're open on July the 1st. Come back in, make your appointments. We're looking forward to seeing you, and we're ready. And if you're taking the PPE story to its logical conclusion, I would present in that sort of way, so they can see that you are made a massive effort to change the way you're going to look after them, and they're not going to suffer from any cross-contamination. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much for listening to Luke and myself. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Hive is happy to take any kind of consultations free of charge. There's no obligation here, so you can ask us anything. We'll give you a slot for a consultation. We're happy to have a look at your website. If there's anything you want to talk to me about at the front of the presentation, which is getting ready for the change and making sure your context is right, you've got my email address, or it'll be at the bottom of this. Please feel free to book a time with me. I'll be very happy to talk to you. Thank you very much, and best of luck. It's going to be very challenging. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hiya, so we've just got one question that's come through. So it says, is marketing and sales more or less important when we finally come back?
So I hand that to you, Johnny.
Yeah, I would say that, first of all, I need to declare a bit of an interest here. I'm a marketeer. So that's my training. So I would say that absolutely in these difficult times, the people that are the best at communicating with their new patient cohorts are going to win the most business and the most high value treatment. So absolutely, it's become much more important. Your clinical skills will always be important. They always have been important. But if you want to have an edge in the market, you've got to have a really top class marketing system that's fit for purpose. Thank you.
I would add that what your marketing and advertising strategy is allowing you to do is build brand awareness, and you're trying to create that mental availability within your prospects' minds that you are the place to go. There's lots of marketing channels that enable you to do that, and then there's sales activation channels that actually deal with the direct response that will get the inquiry into the practice. It's getting the balance of that right. At the moment, we're probably looking at a combination of those things that are going to be effective at filling your diaries as soon as you reopen.
Thank you.
Yep, so that's the only question that came through, but we've had a thank you from David as well, saying that it was really helpful. So thank you for that. Lovely.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for joining us, everyone.